Carl Zeiss. Zeiss, baby. You've heard of the Carl? You've heard of the Zeiss? Well, we're going to talk about Carl Zeiss. Carl Zeiss Jena from East Germany. Produced by the Soviets. But there's some good quality stuff here. I mean, it was such good quality that the Soviets even copied this with their own models called the Helios. But that's another video. But today we're going to be talking about Carl Zeiss and the 7 different lenses that I have here, and the ins and outs of where they come from and what they can do. So stay tuned. I'll be back in a second.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. All right, this week we're going back in the past. Someone famous, and I'm talking famous in the world of camera lenses. And his name, Carl Zeiss. Zeiss, baby. Zeiss, baby. And what we're looking at is a various group of lenses that I've collected throughout the years. Carl Zeiss, little background. Opened a factory in English. It would be called Jena in Germany. But in German, the J makes a Y sound.
Don't know why didn't come.
So it'd be Jena. So it'd be Carl Zeiss Jena factory in Germany. And, Carl Zeiss began as a microscope manufacturer. He's developing, microscopes for the medical and scientific community back in 1846. And of course, by the time we got into things like these lenses, he was long passed away. But the company went on to great success, providing the world with some really high-class glass, so to speak, and really innovating the way lenses are made today. So I'm going to go through the 7 lenses that I have in my own collection here, and I'm going to start on the end. And what I'm going to do is one by one, as I have with my other videos, is talk a little bit about the lens itself, and then give you a little photographic sample by taking a picture of the my Canon M50, which is filming this video right now. So. Beginning with this one here, it is the Carl Zeiss Jena Tessar, and it's a 50mm 2.8, and these were first produced in 1902 and were developed by an employee engineer at the Carl Zeiss factory named Paul Rudolph. And he not only created the Tessar, but also the Biogon, the planar, and sonar designs. And of course, each one of those is still just as famous today as it was back then. But the Tessar here had the nickname Eagle's Eye because of the fact that it was considered a very sharp lens at the time. And you can see, just by me holding it here, how tiny it is. Let me unscrew the end. Now these early models were also in an M42 mount, so they're screw mounts.
Screw you guys.
And as I said, as you can see here, looking at the white background, it's a very, very small, compact lens.
That's how you use it.
And it's preset, which means it has a spring-loaded aperture. The earlier versions here, this one was produced sometime between 1954 and 1958. It has 12 aperture blades, and so it has very, very nice, pleasing bokeh because of the rounded aperture opening, the iris opening. And again, for being a lens that's older than I am, it's in great condition. I mean, everything is smooth. It's well constructed, and of course, these earlier models are very highly sought after by collectors. Not only due to the fact that it's a nice shiny bling, but the quality that these things produced back at the time. Now, of course, these lenses are all post World War II, which means that even though this is stamped Germany on the body here, it's at that time it was actually called East Germany. So Zeiss was split in two. You had the Carl Zeiss Jena, and you had he had another factory working in West Berlin producing different lenses over there. But anyway, everything I have here is East German, underneath under Soviet rule.
The Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
Again, let me give you a little sample of this, and I needed to put on my my M42 mount to NEX. Now I have my Sony A7R II, which I'm going to use as my model camera. I unscrew. I currently have a Mamiya lens on here. What is this anyway? It's the 55 1.8. Also a super nice lens, but another video about that one. So let me put on my Tessar here, and as you can see, it's actually even smaller than the adapter itself. Let me open it up wide. All my test photos I like to do wide open to show you the possibilities of that. All right, so let me get you a photo of my M50. Now I'm going to zoom in. It's one of the beauties of mirrorless cameras. You can zoom right in on some, so I'm going to zoom in on the end of the barrel, end of the lens barrel. 1, 2, 3. This is the Tessar. So it's again in 1954 to 1958. It was considered like one of the sharpest lenses of its time, of its day. Now, of course, if you stop it down to 5.6 or 4 or so, it becomes really sharp. That's what the reputation is. It has, as I said, it's 12 aperture blades with 4 elements, and its minimal focal distance is 35 centimeters. So it can get relatively close. Not to jump ahead or anything, but if you compare, this here is the Carl Zeiss Jena Tessar 50 2.8, but this is produced in same factory, but in after 1975. All of the ones in black are after 1975, so we're not sure the exact dates of these things because Carl Zeiss didn't publish their serial numbers past 1975 or post 1975, but you can see the difference, just the width. The length is almost the same, but the width is very different.
Size only matters if it's...
I mean, if you hold them side by side, they look like 2 completely different lenses, and yet they're the same construction, same lens element. But this one has 6 aperture blades as opposed to the 12 that the older version has. All right, so let me move on up the list here. This is the another famous one of theirs, Actually, I kind of jumped a little ahead too quickly. Both of these have a red T. I don't know if you can see that or not. But the red T is designation of a multi-coating that's put on these lenses. And again, for their day, that was quite advanced, as in many of the lenses of their day were not coated at all, and so they were susceptible, obviously, to chromatic aberrations and ghosting and terrible flaring and all kinds of issues. Not to say that this is the greatest coating in the world, but it's obviously better than nothing. Anything helps. So again, this is the Carl Zeiss Biotar 58 millimeter f2, and as far as lens reputation goes, this one's a little more famous than the Tessar as far as collectibles go. And again, this is the silver version, made in the same age range as this, from 1954 to 1958, somewhere in that range. This one's a little loose, a little tighter. You can hear, up to my microphone, you can hear it rattling around a bit, but still, that's not it's not a showstopper, so to speak. So let me put this on the adapter here, and it's got the same setup as the Tessar. It's a preset, so it has spring loaded. So you preset your aperture to whatever stop you'd like to stop it at. So if it's even wanted to stop at f4, then you would set the ring here to f4, and that's where it would stop. It wouldn't get any further open. So in that regard, I always leave mine open because I set it just manually and realize not to touch it when I'm focusing. So anyway, let me get you a test shot of this one, and
do a clip test.
Now the aperture blades on this one's not. This one had 12. This one only has 10. So that's one of the strengths of this one over the Biotars. This one has 12 aperture blades. This one also comes in a 12 blade set, some even 15, but this one has 10, and 10 still nice. It's better than 6, which are what these guys have. So that's one of the beauties of the Biotar is not only its 10 bladed aperture, but also it had six elements. So it's one of its claims to fame is its bokeh, and then under the right conditions you can get a slight swirl in the background. And it was so successful and sought after at the time that the Soviets took the design back to Mother Russia and copied it in what today is known as the Helios 44-2. Got the same specs and everything, but much cheaper than this one. So anyway, let me get you a shot of my my Canon M50. Let me zoom in on the end of the lens so I can get it nice and sharp. And 1, 2, 3. So that is the Biotar. So the Biotar 58 f2. And again, it's a screw mount. Screw you! Put that back together here. Now that was these are the two most famous ones, and as I said, as collectors, they're the more sought after. Biotar 75 millimeter is also quite sought after. But that's very expensive. I don't want to spend that kind of money. And as you know, the name of this channel is Modesty Photography, and we're out to save you money, so I'm definitely not going to talk about anything expensive. So that's for other channels. Now, I already talked about roughly this. This is the Tessar post 1975, and again, it is a 4-element design with 6 aperture blades. But again, it's the same technical design as the original. So again, and it's cheap. You can pick up these Carl Zeiss Tessars for not very much money at all. And seems my son has woke up and he's a little cranky. He's got his 2 bottom teeth coming in, so I don't know if you can hear him or not, but hopefully my wife is taking care of that for me while I'm in here filming. Alright, so yeah, let me give you a test shot of this Tessar, the more modern, if you want to call post 1975 modern, still considered vintage, but anyway, so this is the the end of my M50. Okay, so that is the Tessar. As I said, it's the Carl Zeiss Jena, and it's again, the 1975 version is not the most sought after, but it's still a good lens, and it's relatively inexpensive. So that is that one. All right, next in our lineup is another actually sought after one, even though it is again post 1975, and you can tell because it has 4-digit serial numbers. 3154 is the serial number on this, but this is the Pancolar, Carl Zeiss Pancolar, and it's a 50mm 1.8. It is 6 aperture blades. To match with 6 elements, 6 aperture blades, 6 elements. And let me open this up all the way to 1.8. And one of the things you will notice if you get your hands on these things is the the build quality of these is okay, but not compared to the older versions. So as I said, there's a lot more, even though there's metal, there's a lot more plastic also in the more modern versions. And as the years go by, of course, if you know anything about Soviet manufacturing, quality control wasn't exactly their strong point.
Сырая покрышка принимает законченную форму за 25 секунд.
But anyway, Pancolar, this has got the white MC for multi-coating, and again, it's a great lens for a lot of photographers are looking for these for their Zeiss color renditions and whatnot. So I'm gonna zoom in. Hold on. That's one thing again against these newer ones is the focusing ring is not so smooth. So on a screw mount, if it's not smooth in your turn, you actually end up unscrewing the camera from the mount. So I'm going to go past and bring it in. There we go. Focus in on the end of the camera. 1, 2, 3. So that is the Pancolar, and I'll look forward to showing you some, not only the pictures of the camera, but I'll get some pictures of my famous model who I tend to use for most of my videos, which is my son Dylan. One good thing about him is he doesn't charge very much so far. Diapers and mother's milk is not that expensive, so he's a cheap model. All right, so that's a Pancolar. Moving on down the line, we have you know, going down in millimeter focal length. Here we have a electric multi-coated Flectagon 35 millimeter 2.4. Now this is again the post 1975 version. It's actually pretty good for being again one of the later additions to the family. This is a famous lens from you know, yesteryear kind of thing, back when it had the zebra stripes and everything. The Flectagons were a famous famous lens. And also sought after. But again, this one, even though it's a newer, it's still vintage, but being a newer addition to the family, or a newer version of the Flectagon, it's still very good quality.
The elite, best of the best.
It's just like the Pancolar, 6 elements, 6 aperture blades, but it's very sharp, and it's got a great close focal distance, or close focus range. And so let me show you my sample, and then we'll get a picture of Dylan also in with the Flectagon as well. All right, so let me zoom in on the end of my Canon. All right, 1, 2, 3. And of course, the 35 is a wider field of view, and we'll show that as I give you further samples on that. So this is again one of the more sought after lenses in this family, and you know, again, this is one of my next favorites after these guys. Pancolar is pretty good too, but I do like the Flectagon here. All right, now moving on to another variation. These are again post 75 lenses. These ones are even, I guess, a little more economically produced. You know, again, they're still Carl Zeiss Jena. This is a 28 millimeter 2.8 with a white MC, but it's in a Pancolar PB mount. So I have a PB adapter to an EOS adapter, and because it was relatively cheap, and so I put that EOS to NEX adapter on there. So it's actually got 2 adapters. It's still not very big. You know, it's a 28 millimeter, so it's fairly wide. So again, 2.8.
What's the point?
This one, just like the others, this one has 6 aperture blades. Actually, there's a little bit of oil on those blades too. I'm gonna have to do a little work on this to get that. You know, it's not very much at all, but still, I don't like oily blades, so I'm gonna do another video on how to remove oil from your aperture blades. But this is 8 elements in here, and again, 6 aperture blades. So let me give you a shot of my 28 millimeter Zeiss 28 2.8, and let me zoom in on the end of 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna tell you, because I got this one as a package with this one's actually not bad. This one, you could probably live without it. You know, again, I had to get to 5.6 to get in. It still wasn't even really sharp. And you'll see that on the photo. Especially when I take some pictures of Dylan with it, I may have to really stop down to you know, get some decent. So again, this is, you see the silver here is a you know, the PB to EOS little adapter. It's very small, which is why, you know, it can fit on here without making that much impact on the lens itself. But anyway, it's not a very good lens. I definitely wouldn't recommend buying it. You know, if somebody gives it to you, or you buy it as a package like we did with this one, go ahead, get it. But I'm probably not going to shoot anything with it. It's just good for, I guess, adding to the you know, the story of Carl Zeiss and the fact that I just have one. Anyway, last on our list is the 135, a 135 millimeter 3.5. Again, it's Praktikar, so it's a PB mount. And you know, I got PB to EOS here, and I'm going to put this on my EOS adapter. All right, so let me get that on there. And of course, the 135 is a sonar design, again designed by Paul Rudolph way back when, and it's been copied by lens manufacturers all over the world. You know, it's a very famous design. You know, it's an easy design. It's only four elements inside. And that's one of the beauties of this particular 135 too, is you can see how small it is. Not very large.
So many different sizes.
Compared to some of the 135s I have back here, and which I'll be doing a video on 135s later. But again, this is, you know, a good quality lens, even though the construction itself is, you know, ooh, easy there, Dylan, is not the best in the world. As I told you, later in the, you know, later years, the Soviets, their QC wasn't the best in the world. But anyway, let me give you a sample shot, zooming in on the end of the 15 to 45 millimeter here, and 1, 2, 3. All right, and that is that.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
So that's where I'm going to leave us today with what we were talking about. I'd highly recommend you know, getting a hold of some of these vintage lenses. They're, you know, again, they may be old, but they're still full of character. They have great quality, especially the earlier versions, and they're not very expensive. You know, anywhere from, you know, $75 to $150 maybe. These ones are like, I think I paid like $30 for the pair of them. You know, maybe $20, $50, $100 or so. But again, they weren't very expensive compared to the Zeisses today, made in Japan.
That's what I'm talking about!
You know, they could range from $700 or $800 up to over $1,000. They're very nice lenses, don't get me wrong. But, you know, again, here at Modesty Photography, we're looking at saving you money. We're looking at, you know, the more economical version of photography. So that's what these videos are all about. So vintage lenses, they're cool. They have, you know, great image quality. Some of them pull out some amazing resolution still, and the colors, you know, are all great, look very vintage. Vintage is very cool. So with that said, that's where I'm going to sign it off. So I'm going to leave you with that thought this week. So just remember, this is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. Please subscribe, hit that like button, wait, subscribe. Forgot supposed to say that 3 times. Hit that like button, and remember, you belong here, right? This channel is for you. For those who are kind of new to photography and may not know the ins and outs,
Now, why would I know that?
the basics of the thing that I enjoy myself. So, with that said, you have yourself a great week, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Here I am,